Friends, for the month of January, we are exploring the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism. This is a foundational layer of this ancient practice, this ancient philosophy and perspective on life. Traditionally, the Four Noble Truths begin with the recognition that there is suffering in the world. There's pain and discomfort. Unsatisfactoriness is another word. Dis-ease, discontent. There's so many synonyms for the word suffering. Just consider the ways that you get upset. And anything can set us off. It's so fascinating. A look, a tone in someone's voice, a noise. I think it's said that the Buddha said that, maybe it was the Dalai Lama now that I think of it, but just when you think that you're so spiritual and you've arrived, try spending the night with a mosquito. See how you do. So the second noble truth is recognizing that there's all this angst of being human and having this human body. There are reasons for it. There are causes and conditions to it. And the practices of Buddhism are all about understanding those causes and conditions. Really being able to cultivate enough mindfulness and enough concentration to look at conditions from as many points of view as possible, to really get a solid handle on the upset. And then when we do that, our discomfort eases. It ceases to exist. We experience harmony. It's a beautiful thing. For maybe the moment, for maybe a day, a week, a year. But because we continue to be human, we will continue to sort of float along and ride the waves. But these practices allow us a little more ease so that the waves don't feel so tumultuous. We're not knocked over. We don't have so much insecurity. And so we feel a sense of peace, a sense of harmony. Our suffering is less. And there's a way to do this, and it's called practice. And there are many, many, many Dharma doors, many practices. And today I'd like to bring forward one of the practices, and this is a practice of contemplation. It is not a practice of extreme, although you can take it that way. It is simply a practice of consideration. And these are the 5 lay vows that practitioners can take and can consider. And I really like to think of these vows on a spectrum. So there are monastic communities that hold these vows with great reverence and to extremes, really. And then there are the rest of us that are somewhere along that spectrum. There are some that we might be really willy-nilly about, and others that we feel really committed to, and then some that we're trying to figure out, we're working with. So I just want to list what these 5 vows are, and I invite you to just take them in. And my motivation for sharing them with you is when we stray from these vows, from these considerations, from this dedication, we can even call it if you want. When we stray from it, we create discomfort for ourselves, discomfort for others. And so these promises that we make to ourselves, these vows that we have, these aspirations that we create are like bumpers that help us stay on course. The first, don't kill. My way of approaching this particular vow is more of an inquiry. What is my relationship to killing? What is my relationship to violence that takes life? I want to say before I go on that in the West, we have been conditioned to have a mind and a perspective that's very black and white. There's either no killing or we're all okay with killing. And the Buddhist practice is an invitation to really look at what is your relationship to killing. And to the best of your ability, can you reduce the violence in your life that leads to taking another life? That's really what we're going for here. It's somewhere on that spectrum. The second vow is don't lie. And lying isn't just about telling something that isn't true. Lying is also the way we omit, the way we exaggerate and inflate and distort. So this particular vow and aspiration is, in an inquiry form, is what is my relationship to wise speech? And when I'm in a distorted state of mind, when I'm retelling a story, when I've experienced an upset, and then I take it to the next level and I'm gossiping, perhaps, I'm telling the story, I'm retelling the story over and over and over again. What am I doing? Am I working with the conditions to ease my pain, or am I actually creating more harm? So what is my relationship to wise speech? Can I reduce all the ways that I lie? Can I increase more of my truth-telling, being true to myself in my speech? The third is don't steal. I was very fortunate to be able to hear a teaching by Venerable Chodron about these vows. And one of the things I will never ever forget about her perspective on stealing had to do with mindfulness. And it had, more specifically, it was the way we steal each other's time. So how are you using your time? Are you gossiping? Are you mindlessly chattering? How are you wasting your time? Time is very precious in the Buddhist worldview because life is very precious, and our time here to really cultivate virtuous actions is limited. And so our time here is really, really precious. We don't want to steal any of it, take any of it for granted. This also is an aspiration to really cultivate a spirit of generosity. So, in a monastic community, this particular vow also reflects that you don't take anything that isn't freely given. So, this is all about cultivating a practice of receiving. It's really beautiful. What's my relationship to receiving? Another vow is don't take intoxicants. Now, this one deserves a little bit of attention because it's not so rigid that if somebody is in need of an anesthetic or a prescribed pain medication after a surgery, I mean, you hear stories of people being so true to this particular vow that they'll forego nerve blocking agents for dental work. And, bravo them. Good for them. Well done. That's one way of doing it. Let's just leave it at that. That's one way of doing it. There are people that are like, yeah, I'm going to breathe through somebody cutting open my gut for my surgery. Well, okay, good for you. That's great. There are highly regulated, well-monitored medications, nerve block, pain blockers for reasons. So there is merit for certain things that can alter the mind and intoxicate the mind. At the same time, let's also apply that first aspiration, don't lie. And what that means there is, let's not hustle. Let's not make excuses for ourselves. If we're using intoxicants and we're altering our minds, that altered state, from a Buddhist perspective, inhibits one's ability to concentrate, to be mindful and reflective, to really be able to understand with a real clear depth. It gets in the way. So again, the inquiry question is, what is my relationship to intoxicants? And look, there are lots of intoxicants out there. Caffeine, adrenaline, exhaustion. So broaden the invitation is to broaden your perspective and to really look at your behavior, my behavior. And again, the anchor point is, what is causing my malcontent? What is causing my discomfort and my dis-ease? So try not to be too fixated on the word intoxicant. That can appear in many different forms. And the final vow that we work on in a Buddhist practice is ethical conduct. And this particular vow is very specific as a lay practitioner. And it is an invitation and an inquiry to look at, what is my relationship to my own sexual energy? And how can I use that energy in really ethical ways? Because sexual misconduct in communities is really, really damaging. And in recovery communities, it's really painful because there are people here who are really vulnerable. And so this is an invitation to really look at sexual energy, that passion, and see if we can concentrate it and channel it into virtuous connection rather than maladaptive attention seeking and so on. And again, the reason for this reflection is because it can be the source of a lot of pain and harm, suffering. It is a condition. Misconduct is a condition that causes pain for ourselves and for others. And we are here by invitation from our own wisdom to mature, to heal, to really walk the steps of more virtuous conduct, action, effort, to be instruments of peace, to bring love and light to those who are in pain. It's a beautiful calling, and none of you would be here if you didn't have your own wisdom knocking on the door of your consciousness. So what an honor to explore these aspirations and these promises that we can make to ourselves. And again, the invitation isn't to perfect them. It's to play with them, to see how they show up in your life, to see the way you're doing it well, to see when you aren't, and the discomfort that it produces, and to get to know that. Because the more we get to know our discomfort and the conditions of it, the more we have access to harmony and peace. What is your relationship to violence and killing? What is your relationship to wise speech and lying? What is your relationship to stealing and wasting and not receiving? What is your relationship to intoxicants of all kinds? What is your passion? And how can you channel that with morality and ethics? I'd like to take us a step toward the conclusion of our practice and bring forward again the spirit of joy. And with a joyful heart, breathing in, we have wondrous mind and heart. Breathing out to understand and heal. Breathing in a wondrous mind and heart. Breathing out to understand and heal. Breathing in a wondrous this heart and mind, breathing out to understand and heal. And so let's go ahead, friends, and end our practice today with a dedication of merit. And I do want to acknowledge that Lynn is here. I did see her, and she was responsible for this beautiful drawing and our wonderful sentiment of metta, loving kindness. So let's end with that. And let's just take into account these aspirations as guides, as guardrails, as frames, scaffolding, however you want to allow your imagination to come alive. These pauses of wisdom that are all there to keep you focused, keep you concentrated toward the light, toward the goodness, toward the love and the divine magnificence that is incorruptible and alive in you. And through our conditioning, through our legacy, through our wounds and traumas, our mistakes and misgivings, we have all of these layers, all of these misperceptions and stories, thoughts that get in the way. And so it's this slow excavation, this slow, gentle peeling. Sometimes we have to take heavy equipment. Sometimes we have to take a pickaxe and a shovel. Sometimes we have to take the finest, softest brush. May the layers of unwanted thought, stories that no longer serve, peel away into your bright dreams, your aspirations to come home to your true, wise self. Your journey is so sacred, and we bow to that. Namaste, friends.